in the sense of we went over all this thing in class, right? So if you don't have question, well, let's take a look number 4, right? If you take a look at number 4, let me clear all this thing out. So if you take a look at number 4, which is again looking at this thing here, just like before, right? Our goal is whatever in the center, whatever in this item here, I want to get rid of and just give me X, right? Just take X or just have X. And to do this thing here, which is again, we have to get rid of the 7, and to get rid of the 7, everybody see that to get rid of 7, I need to add 7 to the left and add 7 to the right, right? Which is again, I have 12, 3X, and 27. And again, how do I get rid of this 3, which is again, hopefully you guys see that I need to divide by 3, which is again this thing here, like I mentioned, or I did not do this, but the 3 and the 3, they cancel out. That's where you have just the X, which is again, you have just the X on the inside. And again, 3 going to 12 is 4, and 3 going to 27 is 9 times. Agree? So this is what we have in terms of solving. We're done with the solving part item, right? And again, looking at this thing here, which is again your endpoint. What is your endpoint? Your endpoint would be 4 and 9, right? On the left side is 4, and on the right side is 9. And reminder, right? Reminder, when do we use the bracket and when do we use the parenthesis? Again, I purposely give you this thing here, which is again reminder that if there's an equal sign, we're using the bracket, which is in this case, the bracket is on this side, right? And again, basically you just shaded this item here, which is again, reminder at the 9, we're using the bracket at the 9, right? Because of the equal sign, because of this line here, right? And again, once we have this thing here, hopefully you guys say that the interval notation for this problem is easy, which is open parenthesis 4, comma 9, close with the bracket, right? So again, and one thing on your final exam, like I mentioned, it's more of a choice, right? So sometimes you can eliminate some of the answer, okay? And it's weird, right? It's always come down to 2 answers, and it's like 50-50. Make sure you know how to graph them. Make sure how to, look at the graph, eliminate some of them. If your graph is shaded to the right and the graph they have is shaded to the left, you can eliminate those, right? So again, multiple choice test is a little bit, different than short answer tests in terms that you can eliminate some of your outcome before you can answer your question, right? But again, question with the first page here, question with this item here in terms of the 3 things you need to remember is if you divide by a negative number, your inequality switch the direction. If there's an equal sign under the inequality, you use a bracket. And if they don't have it, you use a parenthesis. Okay? So if you don't have a question with the interval notation or inequality, let's take a look at the other thing that we did quite a long time ago, which is how do we graph a linear equation, right? So again, this is your linear equation, which is y equal to 4x minus 7. And in this case, they give you this table, right? So again, if they give you this table, which is the only thing we need to do now is, ladies and gentlemen, they give you the x value. Now you need to find the y value, right? Which is, again, how do I find a y value? Which is to find a y value, all you need to do is plug in whatever x they give you, right? So again, looking at this thing here, if you, first we need to take -1 and plug in where my x is at, right? Which is, again, I need to plug in -1 here, which is looking at this thing here, all you need is, again, I labeled this at A, which is, again, all I did was I take -1 and replace it with the x, which is, again, 4 times -1 is -4, -4 and -7, that will give me -11, which is, I know that my odd pair is -1, -11, right? And again, looking at this thing here, what do I need to do? The second one, which is again, same thing, go. I need to plug in 0 for the x, which is 4 times 0. And again, hopefully you guys say that 4 times 0 is 0. 0 minus 7 will give you still minus 7 or negative 7, which is again, we have a 0, negative 7. And lastly, we have, again, we plug in 3 in for the x, which is 3 times 4 is 12. And 12 take away 7, that will give you 5, which is everybody see that this is your odd pair here. Your odd pair is negative 1 for x, negative 11 for y, 0 for x, negative 7, and 3, 5. So now, once you have this odd pair, because they ask you to graph them, reminder, we need to plug into this thing here, which is again, where is my first order pair? Negative 1, 11. Well, negative 1, 11 is right here. Do you agree that negative 1 is on the x, 11 is on the y? Whereas my 0, negative 7? Well, 0, negative 7 is right here, which is 0 stay on the line, negative 7 go down 7, right? And then where is my 3, 5, which is we go to the right 3 and we go up 5, which is everybody see that my 3 odd pair, those are my 3 items. Negative 1, negative 11, 0, negative 7, and 3, 5. Those are my odd pair. And again, the only thing you need to do, which is again, for you guys, you don't have to connect the dots because it's multiple choice. You just have to look in for the right graph, right? So again, this is your graph. This is your odd pair, or this is your chart, which is again, basically you don't have to graph them, you just have to identify the right graph. But again, question with this item here, which is again, plug in the value that they give us on to the equation, right? Plug it into this equation. This is the only equation we have. Plug into this equation, right? Whatever value, if they give you the x value, you plug in for the x. If they give you the y, you plug in for the y. And again, you plug it in and you simplify. And then again, all you need to do is identify the right graph, which is again, this is the material right before, well, not right before, this is our test 2, test 3 material, right? Or test 2 material, right? So the other thing on test 2 material is this problem here, which is they give you this item, they give you negative 6, 3 and 3, 4, and they ask you to find the slope, right? They ask you to find the slope, and ladies and gentlemen, they give you the formula on your final exam. So that's a good thing. Good news is they will give you that formula, right? So again, your formula for slope, reminder, your formula for slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which is reminder that this is your y item, right? This is my y item here. And my x item is this thing here is my x, right? And this is my x. But again, all you do is you need to plug into your formula, which is again your formula. If you use your y2, which is 4 minus 3, right? Your x is 3 minus reminder a negative 6, which is reminder a negative, and a negative become a positive, which is in this case, this is what we have, which is again, in this case, we have again 4 minus 3 will give me 1, and negative 3 plus 6 to give me 9, right? And again, same thing go, which is same item go for B. They ask you the same thing, which is again, cross this thing out so you won't get confused with the number. So again, for B, they ask you the same thing, which is find the slope of this thing here, which is reminder your 6 and your 1, that's your y, and your negative 4 and 7, that is your x, which is again, if you plug it in, which is 6 minus 1, negative 4 minus 7, which is 6 minus 1 is 5, negative 4 minus 7 to give you a negative 11. Same side you add, opposite side you subtract, which is you have the slope is 5 over negative 11. Okay. So again, question with this thing here in terms of find the slope of the line of finding the graph in this linear equation. Again, both of this basically plug in your item and simplify them out, right? First one you plug in for the x or y. The second one you plug in this formula, right? So again, you have this formula. They will give you this formula. You just need to know that you need to plug in the correct number and the rule of sign. So question with this problem 5 and 6. Oh, 7 and 8 is same thing though, which is hopefully this is, if you remember, this one here, they give you the graph and they ask you to find the slope, right? And again, I color coded so that you guys can see that my line A, on the test, on the final exam is only one of each. Well, one of each, so you don't have to get confused, right? But again, let's take a look at line A first, right? Line A, what do we have here? What kind of slope is line A? What kind of slope if it's a horizontal? Which is, reminder, horizontal, you do not increase, you do not decrease, which is, this is a zero slope, right? It's not a negative slope, it's not a positive slope, it's a zero slope. And again, what about line B? Well, line B is a vertical line. Reminder, a vertical line, if you stand up there, you will fall and, yes, fall and die, which is undefined, right? So again, looking at this thing here, a vertical line, you have an undefined slope. A horizontal line, you have a zero slope. So again, like I mentioned,